Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jake, and we're here today to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is the Aprilia Dorsoduro 900? Just listen to that thing, man. That is a big old V-twin in a supermoto style motorcycle, so you know this thing is singing my song. Get it, Dorsoduro! Oh man, this is gonna be a fun video. So, for those of you who have been around for a little while, you may have recognized that intro. That's digging way back in the day from one of my favorite YouTubers that ever did it. And it kind of just gives you an idea of what I want to do with some of these videos going forward. Because it's really hard for me to render a full review on a motorcycle when I only get to ride it for like a day. So what I want to do is just these more loose, more fun, more free-form first impression videos. And it allow me to show off more different kinds of motorcycles, because this one definitely needs to get out there. And I've got so many thoughts about this, because I'm just going to give the game away right now. This is officially my favorite bike I've ridden this year. So let's get into actually talking about the Dorsoduro right here. Basically, when these came out, they had a 750, a 900, and a 1200. And it was aimed more or less right at the Ducati Hypermotard, but it didn't have the specs. It was a little heavy, so people kind of wrote it off as the not as good Hypermotard. The bike we're on here is the Dorso 900, which everything that I've heard says this is the bike to get if you're looking at one of these. And I'm inclined to agree. The first thing we have to talk about is the V-twin in here. Yeah, it's not putting down the same amount of power as the equivalent Hypermotard from Ducati. Of course it's not. So when you're revving it out, it does feel a little bit more lethargic. I had a Hyperstrada, an 821. That bike was definitely faster than this. But this bike is no slouch. It doesn't rev nearly as fast. So it feels a lot more lopey and a lot less immediately chaotic. But when you start not chasing that top end power, you spend a lot more time in the mid-range. And the mid-range, the just initial grunt that this motor gives you is incredible. There's so much torque right from the jump. You get on the power and it's right there for you. Like, let me see, it's gonna straighten up here and I'll be able to safely scoot around this car. Like, that's just 6,000 RPM. Keeping it right there at just the center of the power band. It's so meaty and usable. The power delivery on this is exactly what you'd want from a bike that claims to be a supermoto. You want a ton of torque. It just feels like a more lethargic version of my 690s. And I love my 690s. The KTM 690s are so much fun, but they're bad street bikes. They just, especially for Texas, they don't have the rideability for our streets. This is like a supermoto built for Texas. But let's talk about some of the handling. It's not as sharp as it could be. I feel like for me, what's happening is when I get on the gas coming out of a corner, the bottom is squatting as the weight shifts back because there's such an abrupt weight transfer with the torque. And what that does is it loosens up the front tire's connection to the ground. So I think this bike needs a new spring. If I were to buy it, it needs a new spring. Once you get the rest of the handling dialed in, the handlebars are so wide that you get this really great control over the bike. It's so nice. And again, let's say you miss your downshift going into a corner and you're at the bottom end of the power band. It has so much torque. It honestly has a Harley amount of torque, while also still having a really fun top end. Another thing I do really like about this bike is it's got these big wings here, you can probably see it out of that camera, that allow me to dig my knees into the bike, which you don't get on a lot of supermoto styled motorcycles. This is a really great way to just allow your bottom half to hold the motorcycle and your top half to just steer. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The brakes, they're not great. I'm just gonna say that. They need work. I think it's probably pads. We need some new pads, or maybe we need a new master cylinder. I can't tell where it's let down. It does feel just a smidgen wooden. It does have these atrocious shorty levers on here, which if you've seen my channel, you know I don't like the shorties. It doesn't feel as responsive, especially given how hard this bike wants to get ridden. I'm not getting a super confident feel out of this front brake. And that gives me a great opportunity to pull the bike over and talk about some of the other stuff I don't love about the Dorso. So some top line specs for you on the Dorsoduro right there. This has an 896cc V-twin putting down 95 horsepower, 66 foot-pounds of torque, while weighing it at a claimed 409 pounds dry. For me though, this bike feels a lot closer to 450, maybe 460 pounds wet and ready to ride. It's definitely on the heavier side. And then the seat height is 34.2 inches because it is that sort of supermoto style. However, I do want to point out something that I've noticed. You see how the line from the headstock here to the rear axle does this sort of like curved number right there? Usually it's a straight line from here to here, which means that you could probably get a longer shock there, shorten the wheelbase up a little bit, and that would actually cause this bike to handle a lot sharper. Now, diving into some stuff that I'm not vibing with here on the Dorso, I do not like the dashboard on here. It's this old school Aprilia dash, and it navigating the menus in here is a pain in the butt. In fact, I can't even get to the sub-menus. I don't know if it's a press and hold thing or what. You basically got to pat your head and rub your belly at the same time. Sometimes there's even like hidden buttons because it uses the old Piaggio buttons from, this is Moto Guzzi, and I've seen this on MV Agustas because they all just use the same stuff, even though MV Agusta's not Piaggio. And one weird thing too is to switch the modes. First of all, the bike has to be on, and then you press the ignition button again to start cycling between the modes, and then you select touring and just let it sit, and then it's good to go. But if you want to go back in, you got to press the ignition button again. The ignition button does one thing. It turns the motorcycle on. Don't use it as your like mode select. While it's on though, let me give you some revs here, just because I absolutely love the way that this thing sounds. It's not a super aggressive V-twin. It's got this more low, lopey thing going on, which gives it a little less of a boisterous character than some of the Ducatis. But it sounds really good and meaty, especially with the SC projects that are on here. And then one thing that we mentioned on the street, but it bears repeating, I do not like the front brake feel on this motorcycle. It stops the bike fine, but it just doesn't feel good doing it. I'm not sure if the problem is here at the caliper, because it's a branded Aprilia caliper, or if it's up here at the master cylinder, or if it's these kind of trashy looking Amazon levers here. The brand is Pazzo Racing. I'm not sure if you can see it there, but these feel like just the generic Amazon levers, and they need to get replaced with stock ones. I will go to my grave saying that stock levers are better than aftermarket ones. They just feel better. I'm sorry. Lastly, let's talk looks. I have a feeling that the Dorso here is not going to be to everyone's style. You kind of have to be about this fat supermoto vibe because it's too heavy to be a true supermoto. It's too big to be a true supermoto. So it's more of a naked bike styled like one, but I dig it. I really do. Except I don't love this right here. I don't love this like
big thing sticking up. It basically, honestly, it looks like an eagle from Elite Dangerous, if you've ever played that. It's the exact same shape. I don't love this. They could have just done away with that and have a really good looking front headlight, if you ask me. There are definitely going to be some people out there who look at this and think that this is the butt ugliest thing they've ever seen, and I can totally see where they're coming from. This just really does it for me. I love the way this thing looks. Now, I want to get it back on the road one more time, and I want to talk about what this has that a lot of the modern Aprilia bikes don't, that make this thing so special and so unique.
I think, honestly, like, if I'm going to be perfectly objective, this is probably like a B tier motorcycle, would be my guess. Compared to similar displacement motorcycles, similar style bikes, it doesn't have the potency. It's not as light as the 690s. It's not as quick as the hypermotards. If you were to start like broadening it to just naked bikes, it's slower than the MT-09. It's heavier than the MT-09. It's not as capable as the Street Triple. It's a B tier motorcycle. Good, but not great. But for me, this bike is just, it ticks so many of my personal boxes that I would, for me, send this straight to the S tier. I can't not ride this without a giant ear-to-ear grin on my face. It's got a cruiser vibe to it. It's like if you smashed a cruiser and a 690 together, right? It's too heavy to be a supermoto, but it's got all those supermoto vibes. It's way more comfortable than a supermoto. It's got a lot more just down low grunt than it has any right to have. It doesn't have a great top end rush, a lot like a cruiser. It's basically like if you smashed a Harley and a KTM 690 together, you get the Aprilia Dorsoduro. So for me, this is basically just like a perfect street bike, but it's not going to be to everyone's taste. What I really wanted to talk about, though, is how this bike embodies something that modern Aprilia motorcycles are missing writ large. When you think about Aprilias nowadays, they've got the RS V4, the 210 V4, they've got the 210 660, they've got the RS 660, they've got the 457s, 210 and RS, and then they've got the Touareg, right? That's kind of what you think about when you think of Aprilia. With the exception of the Touareg, Aprilia's bikes generally are suit and tie, buttoned up, all business, very serious motorcycles for people who are very serious about going seriously fast. They've basically done everything they can to make the most razor-sharp bikes, and you end up paying for it a little bit, right? One of the things that this does is it's fun, it's playful, it's got this sort of effervescent character that a lot of the other Aprilia bikes nowadays don't have. It's not so serious about going fast. It's not so serious about setting lap records. And in a sense, you lose some of the performance that you might expect from an Aprilia, right? Aprilias at this point are basically just for the guy or gal looking to set a lap time, their best lap time they can. This one doesn't have that energy. And it's better for it, honestly. It's just a more fun street bike. And if Aprilia wanted to recapture this energy, they've already got the perfect motor to do it. Just make a Dorsoduro 660. Just take the 660 motor, which has got a lot of the same flavor. You change the timing a little bit, you change the cams a little bit, the way that the throttle map works, and you could get really close to this out of a parallel twin. And honestly, they would shed a lot of weight. They would shed so much weight if they used the 660. And they'd be a lot closer to the new Hypers than Ducati would probably want to admit. Of course, creating a brand new motorcycle would be an extremely expensive endeavor, but if they wanted to create this just super fun, just playful bike like the Dorso is here, they've got the stuff. They just need to have the want, the desire to do it. And I don't think we're ever going to see it. I think that we'll never see another Dorso because supermotos just, they're not selling like they used to. There's not a real interest in supermotos more broadly. There's a bunch of weirdos out there like me who love supermotos. Jake the Garden Snake, giant weirdo. Supermoto people are weird people. Don't talk to us for too long. We're going to make you weird by osmosis. You're going to catch something. When it comes time to be selecting Bike of the Year for me, it's going to be hard not to put this right up there on the podium, if not the top step. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.